I don't take shit from anybody, okay, except for Claire.
Yeah.
And that's what freedom is to me.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. This is the Freedom Club Podcast, and I am your host, Curt Mercadante. I hope you are doing great. Before we get started today, I'm going to make another pitch. I make it every episode, or just about every episode. If you're not a member of the Freedom Club community on Facebook, it's our private Facebook group. I want you to go right now to Facebook, search Freedom Club Community, click on it, you answer a few questions, you get in. You get to participate in live stream discussions in which I interview guests. You hear those interviews here on this podcast, but you can participate live, ask questions, view it as we're doing it. I live stream a lot of my podcast, my solo podcast episodes here as well. We have a lot of other exclusive content. We have content from members. You could get on there and produce your own content, share your content, build community, network, whatever you want to do, and join others in the fight for freedom and fulfillment. That's the Freedom Club community. If you're not a member, what the hell are you waiting for? And as I've said before, there is no fee for this podcast. I hope you get incredible value out of this podcast. And if you do, I got one favor to ask. Please, please, please feel free to go and leave us a positive rating and review to help us continue to grow our listenership around the globe. Because every new person that subscribes to this podcast, that downloads an episode of this podcast, is one more person that might, just might, escape to a life of freedom and fulfillment. Now, today's episode was taken from my Freedom Club local event in beautiful, historic Charleston, South Carolina, back in March. I feature an interview with Claire and Joe Porter of Lighthouse Real Estate. Now, a lot of people talk about building a purpose-driven business, but only a few people, a fraction of the people, actually do it. Claire and Joe Porter are doing just that. Now, Lighthouse Real Estate's in the independent residential brokerage, but they're more than that. They're actually continuously working while also generating a profit. There's nothing wrong with that. Working to address the need for quality, affordable housing in Charleston. What we have here in Charleston is it's a fast-growing area. And a lot of people are moving into the area and then saying, let's shut the door now. Let's stop growth. What happens is once you do that, once you start putting a ban on multifamily housing and all that, which they've done here, people have lobbied to do from our local governments, you get a housing shortage, just simple supply and demand. And when you have a lot of people moving in, but by the way, we have a lot of young people moving in to tech jobs. They don't want to live in a home with a yard. They want multifamily housing. They want something that's walkable or bikeable to grocery store, bars, restaurants, and all that. But when you put a ban on that type of multifamily housing, you know what happens? You got a supply and demand problem, and the cost of housing goes up, which is what's happening here. The same thing that happened in Silicon Valley, where you have the people who work at Facebook can't even afford to live in that area. Claire and Joe Porter, yes, they have a profit motive to Lighthouse Real Estate. Yes, they're making money, but they're also working to address the need for quality, affordable housing here in the Charleston area. And so they are boots on the ground advocates for the need for affordable housing. When I say affordable housing, I don't just mean, sometimes that can have a stigma. I'm talking about 20-somethings who move into this area and want a place to live so they can work at our ever-growing employment opportunities that we have here in Charleston. Anyways, I was happy, pleased, honored to interview Claire and Joe Porter, and I share that interview with you today.
Welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast, where we strive to pull you out of your life of quiet desperation, out of your comfort zone of misery, and propel you into a life of freedom and fulfillment. And now, here's your host for this journey, international speaker and coach, and serial entrepreneur, Curt Mercadante.
And we have the Porters now joining us today. Give it up for Claire and Joe.
So I met Claire when I was a chamber member.
That's right.
I met Joe at a Rotary fundraiser, right? Or the Red Badge Social at Rotary downtown. I seem to remember you're a Notre Dame fan, right?
That is correct.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Boo, Jeff. I'm looking at you. Yeah, Clemson cheated.
Get up here. It's a boxing ring.
They left some syringes on the field.
Fight it out, right?
Yeah. So what I love about Claire and Joe is that, as Coach alluded to, there's a lot of people moving to this area, and we have a housing affordability issue. And there are some folks that like to deal with that by putting bans on everything, right? And they did that in Silicon Valley. And what they've done in Silicon Valley is now janitors, actually the developers at Facebook can't even afford to live there. There's actually a law firm in Austin that does a lot of patent work. They found it cheaper, instead of opening an office in Silicon Valley, they bought like a $5 or $10 million jet and they commute their attorneys there. Because what happened is all these people moved into Silicon Valley. Then they said, we can't have multifamily housing. We want to shut the door behind us. What happens when you don't do that, right?
That's sensible, yes.
So supply and demand, it's basic, right? But there's a lot of people who kind of piss and moan about the affordability crisis. What I love about what you all are doing, it's real estate, you're making money, but it's purpose-driven, right? You're on the front lines of that, of housing affordability issues. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, first I'll say it wasn't always purpose-driven at the start. I simply saw a saturated market with dilapidated vacant homes, and I didn't fully recognize the need for affordable housing until I started doing it. I saw acquisition opportunity, and it wasn't until I listened to my applicants' stories about affordability, watching their rent go up 3 times and their wage stay the same, having stories about substandard living conditions, just awful things that they'd have to put up with on a day-to-day basis. And so at the start, it was not purpose-driven, but now, once I did a couple, I recognized the need for quality, affordable housing, and we're the ones to provide it.
I want to get into more of that, but also, how is it working as a husband and wife team?
Let me turn this over.
So it's fantastic, and I think that a lot of people immediately say, "Ooh, how is it working together?" And for us, it's really great. I mean, I come from a corporate background. I come from a corporate sales background, and so that's an entirely different environment we can get into if we want. But what makes working with Joe great is because we both come to the table with very different skill sets. He has been doing this for years, and his knowledge of the area and what's on the real estate market, the contracts, is just so great that I defer to him on that. And my background is sales, right? So I joke that I'm the dog and pony show in the front, right? Like I'm the one out there talking and telling the story, because that's what I do. I tell our story, and so we work really well together. We stay out of each other's hair, I think. There's only been a couple of times where we've needed to step into the ring, right? Over, logos or things like that. And, it's all fine. But yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better coworker, really.
So to break up the feel good, when you stepped into the ring, who won?
Anybody that knows me knows that. Yes, exactly. Tom knows.
Yeah, and I'll elaborate on that.
Are you sure you want to?
I do. And so freedom, one of your questions to everyone
Yeah, which
else.
I forgot to ask you.
Freedom, to me, to borrow a phrase from the great Bob Weir, I'm pathologically anti-authoritarian, okay? So I don't take shit from anybody, okay, except for Claire.
Yes.
And that's what freedom is to me, to wake up I have challenges, obstacles, and opportunities, and I find that the answer is best received if it comes from myself.
Yeah. Got it. What's freedom mean to you, Claire?
So I thought about this for a long time. So first I was like, I'll give, start thinking of canned answers. And it really didn't come to me until today. I spent years in corporate sales. I started a family when I worked in corporate sales. And, something that you say that really hits home for me is that work-life balance is total bullshit, right? Because it is just your life, and it's how you choose to spend your life. And so I think freedom to me, finally now, is knowing that I'm enough and going to bed on Friday and not feeling guilty about either not doing enough in my job or not being present enough with my family. Because there was a point where every Friday I would go to bed and I would feel like I didn't do enough. I wasn't there enough. I wasn't there enough for work. I wasn't doing enough for them, or I wasn't there enough for Joe or my daughters. So now, to me, the fact that we can work together and build our own thing and work on our own thing and tell our own story, I do feel like enough. So.
There's a lot of people who they start their own businesses because they want that sense of freedom, and then several years into it, they've just traded one prison for another. How do you do? It's an ongoing battle, I'm sure, but how do you avoid building that prison of bullshit around yourself?
I'd say we're still figuring it out.
Yeah. The ongoing battle.
Indeed.
Yeah, let me answer that a little bit more. So I think for Joe, it's more of a challenge because we do have these affordable housing units. I mean, he has 52, and he manages those every day. So it's him. He's the one screening the applicants. He's the one taking the maintenance calls. He's the one that's, fixing somebody's washer and dryer, or, he's the one managing the team that we do have coming in and handling those things. And at the same time, he's the back end of the brokerage, right? He's the contracts knowledge. He's helping me as I continue to learn. So I'm over here for free as a bird, and he is working out, what's the best use of time? How do we manage this business? Because I think it's better than we ever dreamed it would be, and so that's a great problem to have. And so how do we work through that together?
We've talked about finding your passion and let it kill you, right? And the business. Have you had some circumstances which, quote unquote, almost killed you, but in the end, you saw that smile on someone's face, of the new home that made it all worth it. But you had to wait till the end to really realize that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sure. So in our business, we provide an array of services. So it is quite amazing to work with somebody to find their first home or their last home. And every situation is special and unique. For me, the best feeling I've had was applying a tenant at an affordable rate and being able to put a face with who that is. A lot of people, the affordable housing discussion is stigmatized sometimes, and people don't know what does it mean to be affordable, who is in need of it. And for example, in Mount Pleasant, 12,000 people commute there a day because they're there to run the operations of the town. They're the nurses, they're the school teachers, the bus drivers, the people running the hotels and office buildings there. And everybody needs to put that face to the name of who's in need of affordable housing. To me, is the most special point.
All right, so let's end on a fun one. Claire, you're a Southern girl. Joe, you're not so Southern. What are the biggest differences between Southerners and Northerners?
Oh, Jesus.
Sweet tea.
I don't drink sweet tea. I know.
That's a good one, though.
That is a great one. You know what? It's funny because So Joe's from the DC area. He was born and raised there, and we met in college. I'm from the Florida-Georgia line, like so south. We had 3 Waffle Houses and a Walmart, and that was it. So yeah, moving here was like big and scary, which is funny now. But you know, Joe loves sweet tea, and I hate sweet tea. I don't. But I did convince him to eat grits and butter, which did not exist for him before we started dating. Yeah, right? I mean, how do you live without butter? Yeah.
And I thought, Michael, you hit it on the head, hospitality.
Yeah,
big difference.
yeah. I think that is a huge difference. Like, you know, I think I griped about this on social media the other day. Manners. Where did manners go? It's been amazing to me. You know, and we've lived here for 16 years, so we're not natives. I like to think of this as locals, right? We talked about that earlier, but it's amazing to me what has happened to man. You know, being important means that you don't have time to have manners anymore, which is very interesting to me, and that worries me for our area a little bit, and just like life in general. But
Yeah, I think we're from Chicago, and people up there don't know the word ma'am.
yeah,
You know, and good luck if you don't say yes, coach, no, coach. Good luck getting out of here alive. Exactly.
yeah. Someone says it on the wall over there. House rules, right?
Well, Joe and Claire Porter, Lighthouse Real Estate, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us.